status as a society or we're not. So is there a measure of equity that needs to be in the mix? Yes, I do think there is. But mostly, yes, we got way too far away from equality and merit.
If you're going to do that, you need to, and I think you could make a huge difference in one generation.
So long.
Here's the issue. Right now, if you go and look at where schools get their resources, where they get their computers, where they get their Wi-Fi set up, where they get their projectors, where they get everything they need to educate kids, it comes from property taxes. In most states, they get it from property taxes. And you go into the inner city, the values of those properties are very low. So their tax base is very low. So how much money they have for those schools is really low. If you want to turn this around, you've got to go in and make sure those schools have this, that they don't have broken windows, they don't have crummy desks, they don't have crummy lighting, they've got good Wi-Fi, they've got good computers, they've got good projectors, and you send teachers to go there and...
Okay, and one more thing, and I'm sure people will hate this, but they can't have crummy teachers either.
I said you got to incent teachers to go there.
But you didn't say crummy teachers, you said crummy toilets or whatever. Yeah, that's important. I hear about that all the time, the money and the infrastructure. The main part of it is who's telling kids what? Who's telling them shit? Because that's what a teacher is. You're a kid. You don't know anything. I'm going to tell you some shit that I want you to remember and know. And if the person doing that doesn't know much or has like political views that they think are more important than just giving the kid the information, and that's a big problem with a lot of schools these days. And I'm a supporter of teachers. My sister's a teacher. Okay, and I'm sure there are still many, many great teachers who do a great job, but there's too many also. I've seen the videos. They're talking direct to camera. See, this is great when you see a video of someone doing it directly, because I don't have to trust whether the media is telling me what they're telling me about this. I could just see this teacher is saying, you know, yeah, I like to tell my kids every day that, you know, you're whatever they would say, well, you may not be in the right body, and like, really, you're telling this to kids? You're putting that idea in their head? If that's really the case, they'll probably tell you in some way.
I agree. I think that's happening a lot less than people think it is.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole problem is the teacher unions are supporting that, and America's become an outlier in that regard.
Totally. There's only one country in the world who handles it the way we do now, including all those liberal countries like Sweden and the UK, all the ones we looked up to. Oh, what are they doing? What can we do that's more enlightened?
They've all reversed position and said, no, not doing it.
Yeah, they're not, well, they just put the brakes on doing radical stuff that is life-changing and irreversible to children. It's like, let's make sure that this is really someone who wants to live their life as not the gender that they were born. It does happen. And again, I think if you could get a conclave of people together who are reasonable, you'd come up with, yes, we do understand that there are sometimes people who are not sort of born in the right body. Let's put it that way. Their mind is more like a woman and their body is like a man, or vice versa. But that doesn't mean we need to reorder all of society around the idea that it probably could be anybody. Everybody who's born is just a jump ball. That's ridiculous. Can't we just come to the middle? Come to the middle here. Yes, it does happen, and we should be respectful of people like that, but there is a default setting for humans, a default setting. I don't think that makes me a bigot to say that, although sure there are people right now typing that very thing in. You bigot, I can't believe you said that.
You're a transphobic hater. But my point is this. In one generation, if we recognize that those schools need money to give these kids even start, then when they get to college, you don't need to lower the standards. You don't need to have a different criteria. You don't need to do anything different for them because they had an equal launch pad.
Yeah.
And when you give them an equal launch pad, they'll do the rest.
Yeah.
They'll do the rest. You don't need to have a quota system. You don't need to lower the standards.
I hope you enjoyed your time living in the past.
A track to run on, they'll run. Trust me. These kids are smart. They just need to have a chance. Give them a chance. Don't lower the standards for them.
Yeah, I mean, as with almost everything with these racial issues, I feel like it's a combination of this, because it's a paradox to begin with. On the one hand, has my race been awful to the black race? Yes, my race has. Have I individually? No. So, do I have any responsibility? Yes, but not actual blame. You know, it's a combination of these things. Like, how can we own up to that? And that we both benefited, because we're old enough to have benefited from a time where you didn't always get the break over the black guy. But first of all, I personally didn't like orchestrate this. You know, what was I gonna not take the job at the Comedy Barrel in Cleveland because I mean, how do I know that they hired me instead of the black comic? But it could have happened. So I acknowledge that. And how can I like be a good citizen and a good person with that, but not to the point of I'm not turning my life over, and we don't need to anymore because we do live in a different world.
Well, the fact that we're having the conversation about it, I mean, this is a big platform. We've got megaphones. We're having a conversation about it and acknowledging it. We're doing what we can to acknowledge it. We're doing what we can to draw attention to it. I don't feel guilty about it. I'm not gonna like hang my head and cross the street when I see somebody coming that's black.
No.
You know, Steve Harvey's a really good friend of mine. He's part of the network. We talk about it all the time. And he's not like saying, "Hey, man, you've been up here."
And how about let's give a big preemptive fuck you to all the people who will say, "How dare two white men have a?" It's like, yeah, as if people don't talk about race within their own race.
Well, of course they do.
Of course they do, and you should do both.
There is
and
a
I
vision
do both,
being
and you
seen
do
across
both.
Azeroth.
Yeah, does it?
I'll talk to anybody about anything anytime they want to talk about it. I don't shy away from it, but and you know, this is why I'm saying the Heartland needs to not be afraid to talk about these things for fear they're going to offend somebody. You know, like I have people
It's not the time
ask me
for
all the time, you know,
pleasantries.
my friend's husband died, I haven't seen her in 6 weeks, and I ran to her at the grocery store. Should I bring it up?
Our
Or should I
orders
not bring it up?
stand.
Because she seems
no
happy.
matter
If I bring it
the
up, I want to
cost.
bring her down. Yes, you bring it up. She didn't forget he died. She knows he died. She didn't forget it. And if you act like it didn't happen, it's like, well, yeah, she didn't give a shit. She just went on. Yeah, you bring it up. You bring these things up. You talk about them. Don't be afraid to talk about this that you're going to offend somebody. If they get offended, that's on them. If you said something you shouldn't do, we shouldn't have a cancel culture. We should have a council culture. If somebody says something that's really offensive, call them to the side and say, hey, you may not realize it, but that's really rude. And I wish you wouldn't say that again. I'm not going to call your boss and try to get you fired.
Right.
I'm just telling you, that really grates on me, and I wish you wouldn't say that again. And then move on with your life. It's not about you got to get somebody.
Right.
Get over that.
Oh, I know.
Just come on. Everybody should be talking about this stuff.
Horde.
That's what I mean about self-governance. Whoever gets elected, does it matter who's Attorney General? Yeah, maybe. Do they set the agenda? Yeah. Do people follow it? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But we have to be self-determinant. It's up to us. We have to quit blaming everybody. It's up to us what we do and how we decide. You got to get up and work hard and make your own way and quit blaming everybody.
Yes, that's certainly one of my big complaints about the roster of things that I think didn't used to be on the left. And one of them is victim culture. People do really, it's almost like an identity, which is very odd. And I understand the concept, and maybe you're a good one to ask about this because you're a professional training in this area, but I feel like people need an identity, even if it's a shitty one.
Greetings.
Even if it's a shitty one,
Elwynn
they just
like
want to have an identity. And I remember when I was, may I unload you on if Dr. Phil? When I was in high school, and I can very clearly remember that era when I was searching for an identity. First, it was a jock. You know, I was going to be a jock, but I did not make the freshman basketball team. So that dream wasn't going to happen. And then, I don't know,
No,
I would have loved to and been apropos
Our forward outpost has been
the
obliterated.
arts, but I was too shy to get on stage, but I could have done that. So I kind of settled on poor kid who needs to work after school. So I was always had some sort of job,
Is
like
it
at a,
too
you know,
late?
14, 15, like a little before
Deathwing's
most kids
presence
had
nearby.
jobs. Even if it was lawn mowing or raking leaves or shoveling snow or working at the drugstore, the liquor store, whatever it was, the A&P, I stocked the shop. Like that was my thing. I'm the poor, and like when I look back, it's like, oh my God, my wonderful 15-year-old brain. But that I realized it was important to me. It was an identity. That was my identity. I was the poor kid who needed to work.
The Fire
was your
Lord
currency.
has risen!
I don't
We
know.
must
That
send
was your
word to
currency.
the
That's
others!
how you bought
Let us
your
hurry.
ticket
But
into the group. That's
But
how
I'm
you
just saying,
bought your ticket.
I just see that in politics a lot.
Yeah.
I think politics really, I'm going to do an editorial on this one day. It's so much more about personality. The politics, I believe, comes out of the personality. Like, if your personality is, you know, pipe and slippers guy, you know, just, you know, old-fashioned, married a long time, happily married, you know, doesn't do drugs, hasn't had any liquor since high school, you're probably going to lean Republican. I'm not saying that's you because we know you're apolitical. But,
Give me a break.
but okay, so let's take another person. That's a personality type.
All right.
I think that personality type is going to generally wind up in the red camp. Here's a personality type. You're very safety conscious. You love it when things are making things safer. Safer. Like everything in the car that drives me crazy that I didn't ask for. It's for safety. That kind of person.
What brings you
Kind of
here?
person who went nuts when
Maybe
COVID
it
happened, when we had to deal with the forever flu. That person's going to be a Democrat.
Time may pass,
But it really comes
but
out
the
of
dream is
personality.
eternal.
Yeah, I think there's
Every
a lot to
dream
that.
has its nightmare.
But they want to belong to something. The number
Right.
the
You
number
want
one
an
need,
identity.
the number one need in all people is acceptance.
I'm telling you, during COVID, like it was so important to
Vishnu
people's
Allah.
identity.
Till next we
Be
meet.
like the, you don't have a mask on. I have 3 masks on. That's how good a person I am.
Yeah, I'd see people on Mulholland driving in their car alone with a mask on.
Oh, I used to say, they think they're going to get it from the radio.
Yeah. Those are the people that read the directions on pump trucks. I just want to be sure they put it in right.
Having confidence that I am safe at home is one of my biggest priorities. Do you feel unease when you go to sleep at night or leave your home? If you don't, you're not paying much attention. I've also felt that same unease, but it wasn't until I was watching the news and the police chopper was in my neighborhood that I realized how urgently I needed a security system. Because my dogs are old, and I don't take my gun to the shower with me. Actually, I got rid of my guns. Not that the thieves need to know that. After some extensive research done by my podcast producer, we found Simply Safe. In fact, I got Simply Safe for my entire staff because I don't want anything to happen to any of them. Because hiring new people is really hard. But that's another ad. With Fast Protect, monitoring, and LiveGuard protection, Simply Safe agents can act within 5 seconds of receiving your alarm and can even see and speak to intruders to stop them in their tracks. I'd love to know what that sounds like. You'll never be locked into a long-term contract, and Simply Safe has been named Best Home Security Systems by U.S. News and World Report for 5 years running and offers the best customer service in home security according to Newsweek. Protect your home with my 50% off a new Simply Safe system, plus a free indoor security camera when you sign up for Fast Protect monitoring. Just visit simplysafe.com/random. That's simplysafe.com/random. There's no safe like Simply Safe. This episode is brought to you by iRestore, the clinically proven game-changing hair growth device that's here to help you turn back the clock on hair loss. I love iRestore because it has helped my friend Tommy so much. I changed his name to not give up the right side because there's so much to criticize about the left, but it never makes me like go to like to join the right. That's I think where we're different. It just wouldn't, and that's including marching for Hamas. I mean, like that's as dumb as it gets. But you have to make the distinction. That's mostly a bunch of kids and idiot fucking professors. It's not the rank and file of the Democratic politician, even though they're too reluctant to condemn it. The one who does is Fetterman. Fetterman's the best.
Is
Have you
there
had him?
I haven't yet.
You got it.
Is there a
You want me to
Democratic
set it
Party?
up?
Is there? Yes, I'd love to.
You should talk to John Fetterman.
Is there a Democratic Party, or has it been hijacked by the extreme left? Is there still a Democratic Party? Because let me tell you, I
can
always
say the exact same thing, and it's not even a question. The Republican Party has been hijacked by not even the extreme right, by Trumpism, which isn't even right. I mean, a lot of it is like it's just a cult about one guy. I wouldn't call it right to be so loving of Russia. Russia? Republicans love Russia now. They're always sucking Russia's dick on Fox News.
What
That
brings
isn't
you here?
right wing.
Elwynn
That's
light
crazy
your
because the leader of their
Be
party is
careful.
crazy.
Walk with the earth.
if the Democratic Party of 20, 30 years ago is not like the Democratic Party today.
Either is the Republican.
I
Yeah, right.
was going to say that next.
No, I
It's the same
agree.
thing.
No, I agree. Yeah.
Because I truly am apolitical. I vote for people and policies, not parties. But if I had to describe myself historically, I would say I've always been a social democrat and a financial Republican.
You remember George Girlfriend? You were very pro-Israel there a minute ago.
Well, I don't think so.
No?
But like I say, I've been with the same woman 50 plus years.
How
Right.
So it's been a long time.
may the eternal
George
sun
Mister.
shine upon thee.
That was a loaded question.
Really? I didn't think so.
Very clear no.
I know.
Very clear no. But I'm just saying we've got to do something here that, independent of who gets elected president, this country's got to wake up and start being more self-determining
I have seen your
than
dreams.
depending on who's in
Courage,
office.
young one.
And
Hope.
if you've got idiots out there that aren't putting America first, we got to kick their ass to the curb. It's just that I don't care if Republican or Democrat, we got to kick their ass to the curb. We can't have those people contaminating and poisoning the ideology.
But see, the Democratic Party is better at self-correcting. Like, Kamala, her speech
How
at the
may I
convention
aid you?
was very pro-American.
May the winds be
I
at
mean,
your
if you
back.
told me that Kamala Harris would be the presidential
I've been
candidate
expecting you.
6 months ago, and that I accepted that and then said, okay, and she's going to use the word privilege in her acceptance speech, I would have thought it would have been about white privilege and all that bullshit that they're always on about. Not that it's all bullshit, but it bugs me. I mean, they just go overboard. But that's not what her speech was about. She said it's a privilege to be an American. Which is music to my ears. Like, that's what that party needs to hear.
I think she wrote that speech, dude.
I don't know. What politician writes their own speech? Maybe Obama. But who gives a shit? She said it. That's what matters. She said it. She gets it. And and by the way, immigrants get that. She's from immigrant stock. They get that. You're lucky to be here because you could be there where you walked 1,000 miles to get away from. That's one reason why they don't turn on Trump in the way the Democrats would like to do. Trump's popularity keeps going up with immigrants. Because when he says things like, rapists, yeah, that's out of line, but they come from shithole countries. They're like, fucking right we came from a shithole country. Why do you think we swam here through shark-infested waters or whatever the fuck they did? We did it because we came from a shithole country. This man speaks the truth. And now we're not in a shithole country. And, you know, I mean, there are more inspiring slogans that we're not a shithole country, but, I mean,
That's a start.
it's a start, and there's too much about this country that does resemble a third world country, not least of which is a wannabe autocrat who does not believe in conceding elections. That's certainly a mark of a third world country. But, you know, in general, the America is good, especially compared to the way the rest of the world acts. I feel like the Democrats have gotten back on that message. They're back on that page. Whereas the Republicans, to your point about, like, don't change, okay, everybody at the Democratic convention who spoke was part of the tradition of the Democratic Center. Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, Obama. The Republicans had nobody pre-Trump. George Bush, no Mitt Romney, nobody representing McCain. It was like that Republican Party didn't exist before Trump because they're not on board with the cult leader. So there is a difference.
What do you think America's going to do when they have time to figure out all of the people that lied about Biden's condition? All the people around him that lied about his condition.
Not me. I kept doing jokes about it, and people would say to me, and they'd stop me in restaurants and say, Bill, stop doing those jokes about Biden, you're helping Trump. And I'd be like, right, like no one would notice otherwise. You know, like I'm the guy who spilled the beans about Biden being old.
You know, that's the last thing that helped Trump because it made him run against somebody else.
It's amazing how well this turned out for the Democrats. I mean, if they hadn't had the early debate, Biden would be the candidate. The fact that they had that debate, which never happened before, nobody ever had a debate in June. That was the dumbest thing that they could have done, because once the Democrats saw it, and the Democrats, for once in their lives, got their shit together fast, and they were like, oh, okay, out with the old, in with the new.
So what are you going to do if Trump wins?
Nothing. Going on with my show and making jokes at his expense every week.
Hi, how are you?
And that's why this is a great country.
Off and away.
Because as crazy as he is, he didn't do anything about it the first time. So I'm just not going to lose my nervous system about. Now he could. He's insane. So he could start sending people to Guantanamo Bay. I don't put anything in that. He thinks they're eating the cats and the dog. But am I going to worry about it? First of all, I'm not going to worry about it, Phil, because he's not going to win. I put my marker down on this last week. I am not even.
You said before, that's not going to do it. That's not going to do it. That's not going to do it. This time you said this.
Right. That's why I feel like I have credibility on this issue. I have been known as a Trump alarmist, and now I'm saying I'm not even nervous. I don't think it's going to be. It's going to be close. The polls are going to be dead even on election day. I promise. When people get in the booth, they're like some of those people who shop for Christmas at the last minute. They really don't know what they're doing.
What do you think did them in? What crossed you over this time to say you did?
Time. Just time. It's just enough. And then just feeling like I couldn't take it. Like, was it the dogs and the cats? It just was like if you ask me, why did World War I start? Well, the quick answer is the Archduke of Sarajevo the Archduke of the Habsburg Empire was assassinated in Sarajevo. That was the final match. But it had been building for empires, as you well know as an empire ruler, don't go to war like that for no reason. It builds and builds. I just think they've had enough. Trumpism will live on, because Trumpism to me is a reaction to the insanity of the left that you and I do agree on. And as long as they perceive that half the country is fucking batshit nuts, which they're not completely wrong about, there will be another Trump. But I think they've had it with this one. This one is just worn out its welcome. I mean, they put up with so much of the trials and the women and the yickiness and the insanity and the Laura Loomers and the January 6th, all of it they put up with, and still not even letting go of the 2020 election. It's just like enough, It reminds me of guys I know.
Heretics!
Who were not happy
You,
married.
for the master, I die 1,000 times! 1,000!
There was like one day when it was like, I know this is going to be so painful. These roots go deep. We have children, blah, blah, blah. I'll lose my money, whatever it is. I just can't do one more day. and they divorce, and then they marry the first girl to give them a hand job. It's so sad. They just fuck it up again. But it reminds me of that.
So you think he's just worn it out? You think
Yes.
people are just going to get fatigued?
Enough. I
Just
feel.
category fatigue.
I mean, it's just going to be. We're talking about a few 100,000 people, perhaps. But I think it's going to be a little closer than that. First of all, she's definitely going to win the popular vote, as Democrats almost always do now. But I think she will win. I don't think. I think he will, of course, go batshit insane as he always does. He won't accept it. His followers, I think, will. I don't think their heart will really be in it as it was in 2020. Some of them, there's lots of people who will always be in the bunker with Mrs. Goebbels, taking the poison and giving the poison to the children because it's better than living in a world without National Socialism. I make an analogy, but I don't see it. But I think for most people, it's just fatigue. Yeah, I think it's time. I compared it to Joe McCarthy. People are tired of Joe McCarthy. He wasn't in their face everything. Media was different then. But he was very Trumpian, and he was very big for that period. And then it just, it was a little like the end of War of the Worlds. You ever see War of the Worlds? The Spielberg, so great. Tom Cruise. And, they're getting their ass kicked by the aliens. And then the ending is just, and then they died. Then they got a virus or something. They got COVID, and suddenly it was just like, and then they died.
Do you agree that both sides need to tone down the rhetoric?
Well, we talked about that on the show earlier today, and the point about rhetoric is he's a peculiar messenger because he calls people scum, vile, vermin. I mean, this is Hitler kind of talk. Vermin, enemies of the people. So he's just no one to talk. What I said was, look, I'm not going to hold my tongue to say something true just because some borderline person might take that as a reason to kill him, or vice versa. I can't worry about what borderline people are going to say if I say he's a threat to democracy, because he is a threat to democracy. So I'm going to say what I think is true, but you have to play by the same rules. And they don't play by the same rules. They play by rules where they're literally threatening people, where they're basically saying, we don't want to have to kill you or use our Second Amendment rights. But if you push us too far and you keep winning, yes, we're going to have to do that. I mean, they say that out loud. Trump, I quoted him with his quote about, we have the rough people, I've got the police, the military, and they don't want to have to, but if they go too far, okay, that's basically saying, I'm going to use police and military. Democrats don't. The Democrats don't talk about it. The Heritage Foundation guy had that line about...
Need assistance?
Well, it's going to be...
then.
We're at the brink of a second American Revolution, and it'll be bloodless if the left lets it happen. Well, again, that's not how we do things in this country. We don't do, and we threaten you with violence if you don't let our way happen. That can't be how we do it.
See, I think all of that talk on both sides, I think is